How to reconnect with your higher self when you feel lost. There are seasons in life when you're doing everything right on the outside. Meeting deadlines, showing up for people, taking care of things. But inside, you feel strangely absent from your own experience. You might not even notice it at first. It doesn't always start with a breakdown. Sometimes it starts with a slow dullness. The colors of life fade a little. You laugh, but it doesn't feel as full. You say you're fine, and maybe you really are, technically. But something in you knows there's a disconnection. A thinning of the thread that ties you to your inner truth. You try to name it. Maybe you call it burnout. Or fatigue. Or lack of clarity. You look for reasons in your external world, your job, your relationships, your environment. But nothing you fix out there seems to restore what's gone missing in here. It's like the version of you that once felt clear, intuitive, guided, has gone quiet. And here's the truth most of us aren't taught. We all carry within us a deeper voice. A wiser, gentler, more grounded presence. Some people call it intuition. Some call it spirit, soul, or inner knowing. Others call it the higher self. It doesn't matter what you name it. What matters is that you've probably felt it before. It's the part of you that knows something is off, even when everything looks okay. The part that doesn't speak loudly, but always speaks honestly. The part that whispers, "This isn't who you are." When you find yourself performing, pleasing, or betraying your truth. It's not a mystical concept reserved for spiritual experts. It's a part of being human. And in many ways, it's the most honest part of you. But over time, we lose contact with it. Not because we're weak. Not because we're flawed. But because the world teaches us early on that survival often matters more than authenticity. We learn how to adapt. We become who we need to be to feel safe, loved, accepted. We follow rules that tell us when to speak and when to stay silent. We mold ourselves into versions that make others comfortable. And in doing so, piece by piece, we drift away from the version of us that simply is. At first, this drift doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like growing up. It feels like being responsible. It feels like fitting in. But slowly, something starts to ache. And you may not know what to call it. Just that you're tired in a way rest can't fix. Lonely in a way that company can't fill. It's not depression. It's not failure. It's a quiet homesickness for yourself. And it's in this moment, when you feel furthest from yourself, that the invitation to return begins. Not through a grand revelation. Not through fixing yourself. But through remembering. You didn't forget your deeper self all at once. It happened gradually. Maybe it started with a time you were told your feelings were too much. Or when you were rewarded for being quiet, agreeable, low maintenance. Maybe it was the moment you learned that other people's needs mattered more than your own. And so, you started tuning out the signals inside you. You brushed off discomfort. You second-guessed your instincts. You silenced your truth to avoid rocking the boat. Little by little, the voice of your higher self, that deep, intuitive part of you, got quieter. Not because it stopped speaking, but because your life got louder. There were expectations to meet, roles to play, people to please. And in all that noise, you forgot how to listen inward. For some of us, we associated that inner voice with trouble. Following it meant disappointing someone, taking a risk, or breaking a pattern. So we stayed in relationships that hurt, chose paths that looked right but didn't feel right, became versions of ourselves that kept the peace, but cost us our peace. Eventually, we got so good at surviving, we forgot how to feel alive. You might even reach a point where you question if that deeper self was ever real. You wonder, maybe I've just changed. And yes, growth does change us. But disconnection doesn't feel like change. It feels like loss. A loss of clarity. A loss of direction. A loss of that quiet inner anchor that used to help you choose with confidence. Here's something important to know. The higher self doesn't force its way back. It waits for invitation. It won't shame you for drifting. It won't demand your attention. It will wait, patiently, silently, until you're ready to return. And usually, that return doesn't begin with something dramatic. It begins with the smallest act of honesty. A quiet moment when you admit, I don't feel like myself. Not to anyone else, just to you. That's when the shift begins. Not because everything changes overnight, but because you finally stop pretending. In that pause, in that raw space between letting go of the performance and remembering who you are, you create the opening. And the higher self doesn't need much space to enter. Just a crack in the armor. Just a breath of stillness. It's already there. Not far away. Not beyond reach. Just beneath the layers you've outgrown. And if you're listening carefully, you might feel it already starting to speak. Reconnecting with your higher self rarely feels dramatic. It's not a bolt of lightning or a divine voice booming from the sky. It's quieter than that. Simpler. More human. Sometimes, it comes in the form of a sigh. A real, full-body breath that you didn't know you were holding. Other times, it's a sentence that rises inside you unexpectedly. A kind of truth that feels like it was waiting there the whole time. You might be staring out a window, or washing the dishes, when something inside says, "This isn't what I want anymore." Or, "I don't have to keep proving my worth." Or even, "I miss myself." It's not always comforting at first. Because truth, when it first returns, can feel confronting. But if you sit with it, if you allow it to land, what follows is a kind of calm you can't explain. Not excitement. Not relief. Just clarity. Like something inside you exhaled after holding its breath for too long. This is the voice of your higher self. It doesn't argue or explain. It doesn't try to convince you. It just speaks. In stillness. In knowing. In love. You may start noticing subtle changes. You're less drawn to things that drain you. You stop trying so hard to be understood. You begin saying no without guilt. You begin saying yes only when it feels aligned. Even your inner dialogue begins to shift. It softens. There's less what's wrong with me? And more, what do I need right now? And perhaps most importantly, you stop outsourcing your truth. You stop needing everyone to agree with you before you trust yourself. This doesn't mean you become rigid or self-righteous. It just means that your compass is coming back online. The one that was always there, just buried beneath noise, fear, and old programming. Sometimes, this reconnection feels almost like grief. Because you start to realize how long you've been away. How long you've been performing. How many moments you said yes when you meant no. How many times you silenced your truth for the sake of peace. But that grief is sacred. It means you're finally seeing yourself again. You're not broken. You were just distant from your own knowing. And now, something in you is ready to return. Not to a version of you from the past, but to the part that's always been timeless. The one who watches patiently. The one who knows when you're pretending. The one who never stopped waiting for you to come home. Staying connected to your higher self isn't about being in a constant state of peace. It's not about getting rid of your ego, your emotions, or your messiness. It's about remembering. Again and again. And the beautiful thing is, your higher self doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. That means slowing down enough to hear yourself. It means being honest about what you feel, even when it's inconvenient. It means pausing before you say yes to something that contracts your spirit. It means choosing alignment over approval. It doesn't require rituals or routines, though those can help. Mostly, it asks for moments. Quiet ones. Honest ones. When you're about to react from fear, but you take a breath instead. When you're tempted to shrink yourself, and you choose to stand as you are. When you're not sure what the right decision is, and you listen for the quieter voice, the one beneath the noise. That's how you build the relationship. Not through force, but through trust. Through showing up, one small moment at a time. And sometimes, even after reconnecting, you'll drift again. That's okay. We all do. Because life will get loud again. Old patterns will resurface. There will be days when you doubt, days when you forget. But the difference is, now you know how to come back. You know what disconnection feels like. You know what truth feels like. And you know that the voice of your higher self doesn't disappear, it simply waits. It's not a version of you you have to become. It's the one who's always been there, under the performance, the patterns, the fear. Sometimes people say, I'm trying to find myself. But maybe it's not about finding. Maybe it's about listening. Listening to the part of you that never left. The part that doesn't rush or shout. The part that speaks in stillness. The part that feels like coming home. So if you're feeling lost right now, don't panic. Don't pressure yourself to figure it all out. Just pause. Breathe. Get quiet. Not to search for something outside of you, but to return to the one who already knows. You. Subscribe to these channels for more content like this.